Okay, so it is kind of late here. I guess it's about 2 a.m. according to my computer clock there. And I've been doing some research and looking into weather patterns and things that are going on around the world. And I got to tell you, it's significant enough that I just felt compelled to do sort of a rapid fire video here covering some of the high points related to weather around the world. Because we're so focused on Irma right now that it's hard to really see through all that news cycle regarding Irma and what it's doing and Jose out there and so forth to see what else is going on. So this is stuff that you will probably never hear about in the news. I will talk about Irma and Jose a bit, but anyway, let's just get started. If something's interesting to you, Google it and dig into it a little bit. But first of all, Jose is stronger than most people and most meteorologists expected at this point. So let's go to 87 miles an hour in the lower left corner of the screen here. That's pretty fast. Very strong hurricane, even though it is small. You have to remember that Irma is an anomaly in its size, so it's absolutely huge, like 400 miles across and things like that. But Irma's going about like you would expect. It's a little further west, but it's still going to rake up the coast of Florida. It's just going to be on the Gulf side now and up into the United States. We're going to have some interesting weather even in the Atlanta area. So, but that's not what I'm talking about. 87 miles an hour here for Jose, right? Well, look, if I pull up, look at this. Now, if I click up here, let's see how I do. Oh. Okay, so we got 82 miles an hour. And it's been going up and down. I had to click around a little bit there, but it's been as high as 89, and it's been going like this all up and down this coast. You see that red area? Looks like a hurricane, doesn't it? And Jose is a very, very strong hurricane with a name. This is definitely not a hurricane, and it's cold air. Cold water, cold air. Nothing like a hurricane. It is a low pressure zone. And these poor people on the coast, there's not a lot of people up there. Population density is low. And you'll never hear about this in the news, but freezing cold, extremely fast wind. Now we're up at the kind of cloud altitude above Earth, and down on the surface, these winds are probably like 50 or so miles an hour. So still 50 mile an hour sustained, 54 mile an hour sustained winds. That cold is bizarre, unusual, right? Okay, the other thing, in fact, you ask what would cause this. I've had a couple questions recently about the jet stream and what's going on there. Well, if you know what a jet stream is, in fact, it makes sense to just very quickly, what is a jet stream? Let's go to the top of this article. Jet streams are relatively narrow bands of strong wind in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Wind blows from west to east in jet streams and meanders north to south. Okay, fair enough. So this is what you see on your weather map. They're way up in the high parts of the atmosphere, and they're narrow bands of fast wind that sort of separate warmer air from cooler air, right? Now, if I scroll down, I wanted to show you this. This is kind of really common. They're usually in the northern hemisphere are two jet streams, polar and subtropical, and they meander back and forth like this, right? So you got really cold air in the Arctic, kind of warm air, the United States right here in this kind of sweet spot, and then you've got your subtropic jet, and then you got the very hot equator, right? Right. So that's easy enough. Very easy. Keep this in mind. This image right here, because I'll go back here, and what we'll do is we'll go up, way up at the jet stream level. All right, let's back up so you can kind of see it all. So there it is. There's the North Pole right there at my cursor. Could someone please point out the subtropic jet stream? It's crazy, right? How about the polar jet stream? Well, there's a little something coming here, but it breaks up. It's very wide, actually, for a jet stream. and so forth. So, yeah, if you want to know why we've got such weird weather, this is your first clue. You know, if you're thinking that humans' contribution to CO2 is causing this, well, that's not what's causing this. Okay, there is another cause. There's several people with different ideas about what might be causing this, none of which are CO2 related. Okay, but this is what's giving this very cool sort of summer that we've had. You can just see the cold air pushing down even now over the southeast United States and so forth. So we've had a very weird summer, and it's continuing, and it's just causing all these weird oscillations and circulations, low pressure and high pressure zones that are creating a very, very hurricane conducive climate right now. Okay, so all right, enough on that. Let's move on. Let's go back to our cloud height. Something else to show you. A couple days ago, I did a report on these hurricanes, or recording, and we were talking about how I mentioned how Jose has a high probability of circling around and coming back at Florida or back in the Gulf, some kind of track, back around. And I had 3 or 4 people mentioning, you know, well, that's not what they're saying. Well, I can't disagree with that. The fact that a lot of meteorologists are saying, nope, it's not going to do that, it's going to die out. If you see this line of latitude right up here, maybe if I zoom in you can see it better right up here. If a hurricane gets anywhere near that, if it comes up and hits that or crosses it, then you're into colder water and you know it's done, right? And so the danger is, will it somehow, and you can see it seems highly unlikely that it would loop around and come back, given the currents and the streams, you know, that we see right in here. Okay. However, this is a pretty dependable model that we're looking at here. Watch what happens if I skip forward by day. Well, let me move it over a little bit. Now watch. I'm going to go forward one day. Whoop! It goes way up. All right, we're getting close. Look, here comes that big hurricane up a little further north, getting close to that line. And then, what happened? It just went back down again. One more day I've got. And here it comes. Okay? We're back in the sweet spot. Now you can see what's happening to Irma up here. But now look at this. This is a much, much larger hurricane here. Okay? And we've got 117 mile an hour sustained winds. Where it's going to go from here is anybody's guess. But I think when I say the odds are high that this is going to circle around, you're looking at the data to back my belief that that's going to happen. And this is not the only model that's showing that. But anyway, interesting stuff, right? Oh, I wanted to show you that. Look at this. If we go back to now. Another weird thing that's happening in the weather. If we look over here in Mexico, seems quiet. I had a question about why is it we don't see hurricanes on the west coast? Well, we do, but usually they're moving from east to west, and so they don't all hit land in the United States or in Mexico. But check this out. If we skip forward one day, look at this. You see, this is coming off of Irma and dipping down, so it's warm air pushing down even closer to the equator. And we go another day. Look at this. Let's go another day. Uh-oh. Look at that. 87 mile an hour, as fast as Jose is today. And we're on the 12th of November at this point. I think I can go one more day maybe. Yeah, look at that. All right, so now we have a legit hurricane. 126 mile an hour wind right off of Mexico. The earthquake was right down here. The hurricane, Category 2 hurricane, just pushed in from the east coast here. And now we got this mess. I'm telling you, Mexico is just getting really beat up. And this hurricane may not go into Mexico at this point. It might come right up this Baja Peninsula here. It would die if it, when it gets up there. But I don't think it's going to impact the United States. At least it doesn't look like it. But, wow. There's another one, right? All right, but let's don't stop there. Let's go back to now. And let's push around over here. Why even stick in our hemisphere, right? So we can look over here. And I notice this, look at that. That looks like a hurricane eye, doesn't it? Well, it's a tropical storm. This is moving pretty good. 48, 50 miles an hour, 47. Let's move forward another day. What does the model show? Uh-oh. What do we have? Look at this. Guys, 116 miles an hour. All right? And, maybe it's not going to make landfall. Well, let's follow the model. We'll go forward another day. Uh-oh. Let's go forward another day. Look at this. This, folks, this right here, that's Taiwan. Okay. And let's check. 128 mile an hour winds. Again, we're in the clouds, not surface, but that's an Irma right there. And look how big it is. I think I can go one more day. Oh, square on the 13th of September. This thing is projected to be right over Taiwan. Okay, now I'm showing you some hurricanes here, and I could go on with this type of anomaly, but this is happening all around the world, folks. Now, let's go back to now just so you can see, and I'll tell you something else that's happening, and I encourage you to look this up. Right here toward the northern end of Taiwan is a river, and in that river, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they wake up one day and there are dead fish as far as the eye can see, okay, a long way up the river. And they can't even count them. They've been out there collecting them and trying to get rid of them and so forth. Interesting stuff. I noticed that it looked like the same kind of fish, and I saw a report come out that say like the tilapia that are up there and things like that are doing just fine. The pH is not too bad. The only thing that they saw was a slight increase in temperature of the water. And a mass fish die-off like that. So I'm using this as an example because we're looking at Taiwan. But if you look up mass animal die-offs in Google, you will see birds, fish, whales, cows, penguins. I know that's a bird, but you get the idea. So there's all kinds, just the list goes on and on and on of the mass die-offs that are happening around the world these days. I get questions, and I'm going to keep going here, about, we've been experiencing these earthquakes. Come on and load for me. Well, if this is going to load, all right, so here's earthquakes around the world. Look at this. And, for some reason they're focused here. And you could say, oh, the United States probably has just better equipment, more seismographs and so forth. No, well, look at Puerto Rico. Huge earthquake swarms been happening there. This is just sort of something that's happening over the past 7 days because there are swarms all around the world that have been happening. There was one in Greece and so forth. So this happens, but this is a huge amount of area to have this many earthquakes. If we zoom in, what's been in the news here in the United States? Oh, come here. This model is a bit tricky. All right, here we go. Whoa. All right, we're in Utah. What I'm going to is Idaho. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Where are we? There we are. All right, so look at that. Pull this down. This model's very slow because it's pulling in a lot of data. All right, so remember we had this huge kind of 5.5 earthquake in the middle of Idaho. There's no fault line here. There's no potentially active volcano. Granted, if we look up this way, we've got the Yellowstone caldera, the supervolcano up here, but it's a ways away. And they've been saying in the news that there have been additional earthquakes, but they're aftershocks. Well, guys, again, this is 176 earthquakes in 7 days in that one spot. That's not an aftershock. I don't know what it is, but nobody knows what it is. I have not been able to find anybody who can tell, who's willing to say or even speculate what's going on here. But that's weird, right? Without a fault line or any reason really for it. Anyway, earthquakes, yeah, we got a lot of them and some very, very weird patterns. What about volcanoes? Well, I know this is kind of hard to really show or tie together sometimes, but if you look, when this populates, show me volcanoes. Come on. There you go. And you got some earthquakes in here as well. The circles are earthquakes. It doesn't track everything, but higher magnitude, 4.5 kind of earthquake kind of thing. But look at all of the volcanoes, okay, that are active. So anything that is yellow is in a state of unrest. Orange is warning or light eruption. And then red is currently erupting volcanoes around the world. So we have a lot of volcanoes, and this is not all of them. I've been tracking hydrothermic vents and these vents that are putting like 2,000 degree water out on the bottom of the ocean and things like that. Certainly an increase. Going back to the die-offs, warmer water has been kind of blamed for some of the coral reef die-offs. The Great Barrier Reef, one of the largest reefs in the world, is like 1/3 dead now. That's unusual, right? So anyway, I say all this, and here's an interesting article just to kind of wrap up. Irma, Katia, and Jose, trio of hurricanes, ocean baffled weather scientists, and this is what I'm seeing a lot. Science can't explain this. But I can tell you that when I look back in the historical record, there are a lot of times where Earth changes very rapidly. And I imagine there's a cause. A lot of people are speculating and have theories, but it happens pretty quick. And I get the feeling, I'll just share with you that I think that we're going through one of these changes right now. I don't know what that means. It could mean, colder weather. It could mean warmer weather. It could mean plate tectonics are moving. It could mean, I'll just leave it to you to speculate. But I thought I would share some of this. This is certainly a longer video than I usually create. But if you have any questions on this, let me know. I've been looking at a lot more than what I'm discussing here. But it's interesting. It's worth noting, and I think it's worth people understanding what's going on here. Okay, so put some thought into it, and keep these folks in Taiwan in your thoughts and prayers. I'm a little concerned about this one. That's going to be really, really, really bad. It'll probably move over Taiwan and go into China even, so I'm sure it will. But anyway, that's what I got for you now. I hope this is helpful or meaningful to you, and we'll be in touch. Have a great day.